Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Before Pari starts the seventh chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, I thought I'd just do a very quick overview of the first 6 chapters, which is like 1/3 of the Gita. And actually, there's the overview here. So the first chapter, Krishna's main man, Arjun, didn't want to fight. There was a weakness of heart. So in the second chapter, he asked for help. And then Krishna reveals his real identity as a spirit soul. And then he also reveals the duties expected from him and the nature of the person who does his duties. The third chapter is entitled Karma Yoga and also describes how one can do one's duty without attachment to this world, to the fruits rather. And then the fourth chapter is about Gyan Yoga. Krishna talks about transcendental knowledge, which is passed down from guru to disciple. And he talks about his own mission. He also talks about different types of action and the importance of acquiring knowledge. Knowledge is so important. Destroys ignorance and is a sword that can basically free us from this material world. Chapter 5 is Kama Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. So how to perform Kama Yoga in practice and the effect of it as well. And last 2 weeks, we've been talking about chapter 6, which is Dhyan Yoga, and how Krishna explains about the mind and the challenges of Astanga Yoga, how to control the mind, and also what happens to the unsuccessful yogi. So, Pari, over to you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So, like Prabhuji explained from the summary of 1st to 6th, now we're going to talk about the summary of chapter 7. So, in the beginning, of the middle section of the Gita, it mainly starts to focus on Bhakti Yoga. And, so Bhakti Yoga, like everything else, is something that's kept in the middle of something is the essence. So, like the king is kept in the middle of the army because he's the most important. So just like that, in between all the yogas, we consider Bhakti Yoga to be the most important, and therefore it's in the middle of the Gita. So Karma Yoga, just another summary of all the yogas, a little sort of description. Karma Yoga is essentially, when we employ our senses to connect with God. So whatever we do, using our senses and our actions, because obviously our senses cause our actions, we tend to connect them to God. Ashtanga Yoga or Dhyana Yoga is when we connect our mind to God. So, our contemplative mood. Yeah, sorry, lost my English there for a sec. But we connect that mood to God. And Jnana Yoga is when we connect our intelligence and, what is truth and what is illusion, we connect that to God. Intelligence, essentially our buddhi, so we know what is right or wrong, and we use that intelligence, for God. Bhakti Yoga, however, is considered the highest because we take all of these things together and, ball them up. And that's when we start to develop this emotional and bhakti-filled connection to God. So with it's bhakti is empowered by the intention to develop love for Krishna. So that bhakti ladder that we saw, Krishna Prema was the highest. So that's why Bhakti Yoga is everything combined. It's Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and all other yogas, all combined together with the intention of creating a relationship filled with love for Krishna. So Krishna begins to sort of describe himself through Bhakti Yoga, because someone that's starting to become a devotee needs to know so much about him. How can you love someone that you don't know? So Krishna begins to describe himself, tell Arjuna about himself. So where to find him, how to reach him, effect of worshipping. So the themes that we see are, hearing. And that is the first and most important process of bhakti. There are 9 processes of bhakti, but the first ever, like the most important one, is listening. To listen to God, to listen to the devotees that speak about God. So hearing is the most important. Then Krishna gives a sense of, where he's present in the material world. So where does he lie in this world of Maya? Where can we actually see him? So everything rests in him, just as strings that hold together the pearls in the necklace. So Krishna is the essence, because without that string, those pearls wouldn't be together. So he is, he creates that sense of presence in the material world. Then he also speaks about the types of people that approach him. So he speaks about the type of people that approach him and those who don't approach him, which is, extremely interesting, because we get to see both sides of who approaches him. And, there are even levels to people that approach him. They come with different intentions, with different emotions. So that's what Krishna talks about again. Now, he also talks about the worship of the Devatas. Devatas and Bhagavan are different. Devatas are the demigods, and Bhagavan is the Supreme Lord, who we talk about, Krishna. So in that sense, he talks about what is the difference and what are the fruits of worshipping, here or there. Okay, so can we please have a volunteer to read the first 3 texts?
Arav has volunteered. Go for it.
Perfect. Thank you, Arav.
Text 1. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt." Text 2. I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. Text 3. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth.
Thank you, Arav. Thank you for the clear reading. So essentially what you said, so the summary of verses 1 to 3, is that Krishna actually wants us to know him. Although it is, of course, very hard to understand such a complicated character, but Krishna is, everything. He's contradicting qualities. So he of course he can be difficult to understand, but at the same time he's very simple. So of course it is hard to understand, but through the practice of bhakti yoga, we can actually get to know him in full form. And that is because of the first process of bhakti, which is listening about him. If you don't listen, to someone speaking about Krishna, there's absolutely no way you can actually reach him, because the information that you get from someone who's knowledgeable and the books that you may read, with the proper research done, that is the essence of bhakti. That's what you need to progress in bhakti and actually know Krishna. Or else we're not just gonna get all this information about him in a dream one day. That's not possible. So the lesson that we learn from these verses is that engaging in the 9 processes of bhakti will take us closer to Krishna. But the first and most important one is to hear, is to listen about him. So anything to add, Prabhuji?
I think it's very, very clearly put. And this verse number 3 is very interesting, because Krishna says, out of thousands of men, one may try for perfection. And out of those that have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. So even if somebody is perfect, they still may not know Krishna in truth. So it's very interesting to hear that. Okay.
Okay, so I think, yeah, if anyone else wants to volunteer to read.
Yep, I don't mind.
Thank you, Urvi. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All together, these 8 constitute my separated material energies. Beside these, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mine, which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material, inferior nature. All created beings have their source in these 2 natures. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. O son of Kunti, I am the taste of the water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. Om, sorry. As the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras, I am the sound and ether and ability in man. I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat and fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penances of all ascetics. O son of Partha, know that I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men. I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles, O Lord of the Bharatas. Know that all states of being, be they goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am, in one sense, everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me.
Thank you, Urvi. Very clearly read. So the summary of verses 4 to 12. Of course, that was a lot of information, quite an overload of information, actually. So in answer of the common challenge, when someone is starting to get involved, or when someone is challenging you, their first question would be, can you show me God? Now, Krishna cites this analogy of pearls strung on a thread. The pearls are perfectly strung and arranged as a necklace, while the thread remains completely invisible. So if you've ever seen a necklace, you only see the beads or the pearls that are, on the thread, whereas the thread holding it all together is covered by everything that is holding it. So similarly, God designs and creates and sustains the entire universe, all the heavenly planets, and then us who are in the middle, the earth, and then all the hellish planets at the bottom. But because, of his humility, because of his humbleness, we can't question if we can see him, because all of these creations can't just be made, just with the snap of a finger. The Lord has done all of this, and he's still, he doesn't want to exert himself onto us. He doesn't want to force himself onto us. So he remains invisible to the immature observer. That's a good part. Immature observer. Someone, who is immature, they also lack in knowledge. And so they're unable to see the transcendental knowledge, which we discussed in chapter 4. They wouldn't know anything about Krishna, and their challenging attitude and sort of their that behavior doesn't allow them to see who actually creates and sustains this entire universe. So the extreme intricacy and sophistication of the creation, all the planets, all us, all the 84 million species that are on Earth, just on Earth, by the way, there's so much more on all the heavenly planets and then all the hellish planets. So all the intricate and sophisticated designs that he's made of us and all these species, it indicates the presence of a higher intelligence, because there's no way, this is not to disregard science. Science is just a lot slower than what our Vedic scriptures have already discovered. Science takes a lot of time to realize stuff, and because of course it's a scientific subject, it asks for proof. but this is already given into our Vedic scriptures. So not to disregard science, but we've already known this. We've already known that the presence of a higher intelligence. So, you know, Krishna also further explains how he is in essence of everything within creation. So the taste of water, the light of the sun, the ability in man, the highest sort of quality in everything. So the highest quality of water is a taste of it. You know, some may say it doesn't have taste, but it does satisfy us. Water satisfies us. The light of the sun is important for us. The ability, the highest quality in a man is his ability, his skill, right? So that is what Krishna has given us. He's the highest quality and the blessing in everything. So in this way, through the eyes of knowledge, one can learn to see God everywhere. Now, lesson 29. This is a good one. Every time we drink water, say Rasoam Apsu. I'm the taste in water. That way we will be reminded of Krishna doing, you know, even doing an ordinary activity, we remember him, which is another process of bhakti. But you know, when we say this, we remember Krishna. So yeah, Prabhuji, anything to add?
No, that's good. And those three words are quite easy to remember. Raso aham apsu. Raso means taste. Aham I. Apsu in water. So raso aham apsu. And we drink water so many times in the day. It's just good. When we drink, we realize, oh, this is actually Krishna. So it's very interesting. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah, anyone else to read these texts, please?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Sure, thank you.
Text 13. Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. Text 14. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Text 15. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are the lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Text 16. O best among the Bharatas, four kind of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me, the distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. Text 17. Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best, for I am very dear to him and he is dear to me. Text 18. All those devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. Text 19. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare.
Thank you, Varad. So the summary of verses 13 to 19. If God can be perceived everywhere and his existence is so strikingly obvious, why is there still a wholesale denial of him? So essentially, you know, if we can see God everywhere, you know, if we see him when we drink, if we remember him when we drink water, and you know, the ability in man, and he's here and he's there, then why do so many people not believe in him? Why is there a denial of Krishna? So in response, Krishna says that he endows each individual with the free will to fly their own, you know, to fly their own plane. Now, if God was controlling, we'd never actually realize how much we are in need of him. You know, for example, really strict parents, they end up having, you know, they end up creating children that just after a while, just don't care. They don't care anymore. They just, they're like, okay, you've been as strict with me as you could until this age, so now I'm gonna, go live on my own, or I'm gonna go uni, and you can't stop me. If someone is too strict to the point where it's controlling, then you will never really realize how much you need that person, and you won't have that attitude of gratitude, as we say. So that's why Krishna gives each individual with the free will to fly their own plane, to think their own thoughts and to do their own actions, essentially. So he describes the 4 types of people who reject God due to their preoccupation in worldly life. Preoccupation in worldly life means whatever they do in Maya, in whatever they do in the material world, basically. So the 4 types, the first type is the grossly foolish. Just foolish, basically. They have no knowledge of Krishna, very ignorant, always in tamogun. And then the second type is the lowest of mankind. Lowest of mankind is quite like, they essentially don't even have the basic quality of humanity, in a sense. They, someone who's rude and arrogant and assertive, quite considered quite the lowest of mankind, basically. Someone who has too much anger, too much lust, too much greed, the 3 hellish qualities. The third type of person is someone who's always in illusion, someone who's so distracted by material world, like their life is basically that of an animal, eating, sleeping, drinking, mating, defending, that's it. And then we have the atheistic nature. Atheistic nature is, it's just something that people have because they are unable to realize what God has done for them. Atheistic nature, of course, there's a lot of types of atheism. Some people feel that, God has done this to me, so why should I believe in him? Some think, well, something from the scientific point of view, where I need proof, I need scientific proof, I need it in front of my eyes, or else I won't believe this. So these are the 4 types of people that are unable to accept God and are unable to see him as well. The 4 types of people who do accept God, are so. But of course, these 4 types are really distinct just because of the intention that they approach God with. The first intention is seeking wealth. A lot of people do this. I've witnessed it myself. So many Lakshmi pujas and this and that. People go to God for their own material desires. Essentially, there's no difference between the third quality of the illusory quality and this one, because you're going to a higher power to ask them for freedom of being entangled into illusion. So they accept God just for their own motives, for their own selfishness, basically. The second type who accept God are the people who are in a dilemma and they're quite distressed. That's when they seek God. And something bad happens in life, and that's when you remember God. Otherwise, you're just doing your own thing. Otherwise, you're doing this and you're doing that. But when something bad happens, that's only when you're accepting, okay, I should probably go to God so he can help sort out my problems. Well, there are people like that. Now, the third quality is inquisitive. Those people who actually want to know more and are actually quite like, oh, well, this is interesting, let me explore this. So that is another type of person. But then the last one, I guess it's kind of similar, but the last one is a seeker of knowledge. Seeker of knowledge is actually the most important, because they look for the essence of where to find God. They're not intrigued by things like the inquisitive. They're of course, you never know if they're distressed, but it's often what leads to the seeking of knowledge. You don't have to be distressed to know about God. And they don't have to have any, they don't have to seek wealth either. So in these four qualities, the seeker of knowledge is held at the highest because they actually seek for the truth. They seek for the essence, which is Bhakti Yoga and the Bhagavad Gita. So it is rare to find someone who actually is able to approach God free of ulterior motives, of course, because people only approach God when it's concerned to them. When it's a concern to them, that's when they approach God. Otherwise, you don't find many people that do. But then that rare soul can actually create such a selfless relationship with God, and the level of spiritual purity that they have will increase so much. So those people that don't accept Krishna and the sort of first two qualities of seeking wealth and distress, they take births a lot of times because they don't see Krishna for who he is. They either don't see him at all, or they see him as a form of gaining wealth or sorting out his problems. But yeah, the lesson we learn is that human life is really rare to achieve, and it's even rarer to surrender it to God, because a human birth is taken after so many births. Imagine a human birth is the topmost of 84 million, and then all below that you have every other species you could ever imagine, all the animals, all the plants, all the bacteria, literally the bugs, everything. And then even in humans, taking birth as a Hindu in an Indian family is considered, one of the highest types of birth. So we should, be really, really grateful and really, really thankful that we actually get a chance to be born as a human, first of all, on top, in an Indian family as a Hindu, and reading the Bhagavad Gita now, which are the exact words spoken by Krishna. So thus we must really treasure and protect this great fortune. We should be really, really thankful for this and avoid committing offenses that are prohibited. Like, a mad elephant offense of blaspheming devotees. That's the biggest offense. Of judging devotees, which is Bhakti Lata Bhij, we call it. So yes, we should be really thankful essentially and avoid these offenses. So Prabhuji, anything to add?
Yeah, this part of the Gita is really fascinating because there's a few verses which really, this is one of my favorite verses here, number 14, where Krishna describes how his energy is divine. Even the material energy is divine because it's his, and it's very difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered onto him can easily cross beyond it. And then, as you mentioned, the 4 types of people. Now, even the 4 types of people who approach him, Krishna calls them not just pious, he calls them udhara, he calls them magnanimous, he calls them great, because they could have gone anywhere, but they've actually approached him. He becomes happy, even if we're approaching him for wealth or in distress or whatever it is. So he calls these people magnanimous. So they are regarded highly by Krishna, even though they may have an ulterior motive, because they finally approached him. And then this verse here is the bit that you talked about, the rarity of human life. And is another incredible verse, which number 19, after many, many births and deaths, one who's in knowledge surrenders unto God, knowing him to be the cause of all causes. Such great souls very rare. Of course, we don't have to be necessarily born in a Hindu family. It's the dedication to God, because we know many people born in Hindu families who really don't care for rules and regulations. But it's the point is that when we take this human form of birth, we attain this ability to come close to God, and that's the criteria by which we live by. So I think this is the last bit now. Maybe who'd like to read? I suppose Ishwari, Kishori. I think they had their hand up. So
We can let someone else read because we're just copying the questions from part 2 into part 1 of the quiz.
okay, Lokeshwa. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Next 20. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. Text 21. I am in everyone's heart as the super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. Text 22. Endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. Text 23. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. Text 24. Unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. Text 25. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. Text 26. O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, and all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I know all living entities, but me no one knows. Text 27. O Scion of Bharata, O conqueror of foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arising from desire and hate. Text 28. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. Text 79. Intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. They are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities. Text 30. Those in full consciousness of me who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of me, of the demigods and all of the methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death.
Thank you, Lokeshwar. So from the verses that Lokeshwar really nicely read, the summary of them is that Krishna establishes monotheism and distinguishes demigods as powerful entities in charge of universal affairs. So there is, when we look at other religions, for example, Islam or Christianity, these religions are known to be monotheistic, which means there is only one God, one supreme personality that everyone worships. Now, just like that, there is, a really large misconception that Hinduism has, so many gods and, this and that. But actually, we are also a monotheistic religion. Not only that, we come into every category, which I'll go on to explain. But we are monotheistic in the sense that Krishna is the one and, the only supreme personality that we worship. Now, he is distinguished, he is different to the demigods, because although, yes, demigods have their own power, they're in charge of universal affairs, but this does not mean in any shape or form that they are equal to Krishna. Krishna is independent of everything, right? But we are not independent of Krishna, and the same applies to the demigods. Of course, they are very, respectable and known personalities, but they cannot function without Krishna either. That goes for Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, Ganesh, all of the demigods that we know, Lakshmi, everyone, every single one. They just cannot be independent of Krishna and do their own thing. That's not how it works. So it's Krishna at the top, just like a government system, basically. Krishna at the top, then you've got like Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Defense. So just like that, all the ministries are handled by the demigods, but Krishna is at the top. So actually, this is what I was talking about, the monotheism. We'll explore this now. Actually, Sanatana Dharma is multi-faceted, and the system of worship can be regarded as multi-layered, polymorphic bimonotheism. Monotheism is when there is just one, when one God is regarded. So one supreme personality. Bimonotheism is we take into consideration the consort as well. So bimonotheism means God as a divine couple. So not only do we worship Krishna, but we worship Radharani. So that is a divine couple for us. We worship Krishna. So in that sense, we are monotheistic because he's the supreme God. But then we also worship Radha and Krishna together, which makes it bimonotheistic. Bi means two. So bimonotheistic, which means two, which is Radha and Krishna. But then we are also polymorphic because Krishna has so many expansions, like Vishnu, Rama, Narasimha, Narada Muni, Brihaspati, Parshuram, Lord Chaitanya. So many expansions of Krishna, which makes it polymorphic. Now, multi-layered polymorphic bimonotheism, the multi-layered part of it means that there are so many devatas, there are so many demigods who can be worshipped for temporary gains. But of course, temporary doesn't mean it lasts forever. And we know Krishna as Satchit Ananda Rupa. So he is someone who is permanently happy within himself all the time. So that's where we want to be. We want to be with him. So we don't want to worship for temporary gains because, everything in the material world is temporary itself. So that's not going to benefit us a lot. But yeah, the multi-layered part of it means that there are so many devatas that, like I said, they look over different departments. So multi-layered, polymorphic, bimonotheism. So Sanatana Dharma actually comes under every category, which is so special because no other religion can actually compare to what we have, because they don't accept other devatas like we do, because we accept them because they are also part and parcel of Krishna, just like us. So it's not that devatas, we shouldn't respect them. Of course we should respect them. But who we should worship is the monotheistic God as Krishna. So lesson 31 is that our worship is exclusively meant for Krishna and his expansions, who are the Vishnu avatars. So, the Dash avatars, the Matsya, Varaha, and so on. There's a lot. There's 24. So there's Dash avatars, but then there's also different types of avatars. But we worship exclusively for Krishna and his expansions or his incarnations. But the devatas and the demigods are his servants, whom we have to respect but not worship. So Prabhuji, anything to add?
That's good explanation. This is of course a little bit complicated, but it just gives the whole ambit of Godhead, which is quite interesting. But yeah, I think that was good, very good.
Amazing.
Well explained. Any questions? Ishwari, Kishori, go for it.
So today we only have 4 questions.
Okay.
Only 4?
Only 4.
They only had one last time.
Why is Lord Krishna's palms and the soles of his feet red?
That's such a that's a very particular question. I'm not sure. Prabhuji, anything to add?
I'm just asking the oracle here, the wife. Say louder, louder.
You know, you have henna on your book to decorate. Bit like that.
Oh, thank you. You're on mute, Prabhuji.
Say again.
Bit like having a henna on your hands, to, for decoration. It's a bit like that. It's like decoration. And kumkum is supposed to be very auspicious, so they use the kumkum to decorate.
There you go.
Thank you, Mataji. You saved us.
I learned something as well.
How many types of yoga are there?
There's many. Of course, the main ones that we look at are, karma yoga, bhakti yoga, dhyana yoga. But in the Bhagavad Gita, every chapter is a different form of yoga because what they try to teach and what they try to express is, of course, something different in each chapter. So it has a different name, which is a different type of yoga. But yoga essentially means practice, right? What we do, like our action in terms of practice.
Or connection with God. Yoga means connecting with God. And yes, there's millions of ways to connect with God.
Yeah. So every chapter teaches us something different and a different form of trying to connect to Krishna. But we encourage and mainly focus on bhakti yoga because that's the most sustainable and like the most regarded way of reaching to Krishna.
Thank you. How is it possible to know the Lord in full? Because isn't the Lord like never ending?
Wait, what was the question? Sorry.
Yeah, how can you know the Lord in full? Because he's there's no end to him.
Oh,
yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
You
can't.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you can. Wow. Okay.
Even he struggles. One time he was looking at his reflection in the mirror in Dwarka, and he thought to himself, wow, who's this amazing personality? So his qualities are always increasing. So even he can't keep a track. So what to speak of anybody else?
So you can't basically.
No.
you basically can't. You just have to know like what Krishna actually wants, and all he wants is love from the people he's created and all his devotees. So yeah, that's basically it, isn't it?
First question. Why is our religion commonly called Hinduism and not Sanatana Dharma?
Hinduism, that's a good question. Now, that's kind of like asking, why is Bharat called India? Well, external influences come and stick on their names, and we just have to accept them and deal with it, right? When we talk to people that actually know about Sanatana Dharma, then we regard it as, we refer to it as Sanatana Dharma. But when we explain to someone else, like someone that's actually trying to, I don't know, come into the religion and get to know more about it, we can't say Sanatana Dharma. We have to explain to them in the terms of Hinduism, and then they realize, well, this is Sanatana Dharma, this is eternal. So Hinduism was a name given from external influences, and we just have to go with it, because people that aren't aware of the actual what it's called, we just have to use Hinduism with them. But yes, always when you're trying to speak about it, try to say Sanatana Dharma, because Sanatana Dharma reflects what it actually is. It's eternal. So yeah.
I see. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Any questions? Arav, are you happy? Bharat, Lokeshwar, Niklesh, Urvi, Smita, Kishore, Charo, Chariu. You're okay? Okay. So let's go to the quiz. Over to you, Ishwari and Kishori.
So, Prabhuji, because I'm like not
Yes.
at home right now, I might not be able
Okay.
to like do the quiz.
No,
But-
that's fine. Thank you very much. You did.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining again.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure to teach you guys and have discussions with you. It's amazing because I myself learn from it so much as well. It just brings me back to when Prabhuji used to teach me. So thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so
Take
much,
care.
Ishwari and Kishori, for doing the quizzes and stuff as well. I'm sorry I can't join, but
That's okay.
thank you again. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, do you want to put the link in, or you already have?
I'm just getting there.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Okay, we got the link, quiz.com, and the pin is 763739. Very good. So just while we're waiting for people to join, 3rd of December, which is a Saturday in just under 3 weeks' time, it is Gita Jayanti. It's a day when Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, or sang it, or they had the conversation. Very auspicious day. It's also a day of Ekadashi, and it's a day where we recite the whole Bhagavad Gita, preferably in Sanskrit, and we will be doing that in Kulsden, in the Mandir in Kulsden. So if anybody would like to join us, please do come, 12:30 till 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, something like that. Very good opportunity to hear the whole Gita. And it's a very auspicious day to hear it because it's also Ekadashi. And Ekadashi is very important because that is the day of Lord Hari. Okay, I think everybody's on. So over to you.
Okay, and we've merged the quiz from last week with the quiz for this week.
Great.
Has everybody joined?
Yeah, I think everybody has. Yeah, we've got 8 people. Amazing. So you can start, yeah.
What is the name of chapter 6? Astanga Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, or Dhyana Yoga? And the correct answer is
Dhyana.
Dhyana Yoga.
Yeah, because Krishna is talking about meditation. Dhyan.
Yes. True or false? Our mind will become a controlled mind if we are lusty, greedy, and angry. And the correct answer is false. Definitely false. What will an uncontrolled mind do? Agitate and misguide, entangle the soul within this world, forcing us back to our lower nature, help us make progressive and healthy choices, listen to you and guides you in tough situations. This is a multi-solution. And the correct answer is the first 2 options. One way to control the mind is through the process of blank yoga. And the correct answer is Astanga. It's all of them, but we just couldn't put it
It
all.
is all of them, but Astanga is the answer in chapter 6.
Yeah. What are some of the themes for chapter 6? The state of mind, the art of breakdance, the practice of Astanga yoga, the practice of letting your mind be uncontrolled.
So 2 answers, right?
Yes, this is a multi-step. And the correct answer is the practice of Astanga yoga. The controlled mind acts as our friend, devil, breakdancing champ, all of the above. And the correct answer is the first one. What are some of the practices to follow Astanga yoga? Practicing celibacy, practicing shouting as loud as we can muster, eating and sleeping in proportion, having a competition on who can eat the most. This is a multi-story. And the correct answer is the first and the third option. True or false? Lord Krishna sees the good qualities in everything. And the correct answer is true. What happens if one faithfully does the yogic process but later falls away without perfecting his spiritual consciousness? He ends up in no man's land, having failed to attain spiritual satisfaction and not enjoying the world while he tried. He carries on in the next life from the same point and he is eternally benefited. He doesn't perfect it. He has to break dance for the rest of his lives, all of the above. And the correct answer is the second option. In the age of Kali Yuga, we have access to blank yoga, easy access. And the correct answer is bhakti. What is bhakti yoga? Loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord, renouncing fruits, knowledge, control mind and senses by Astanga yoga, meditation on Paramatma, renouncing fruits, speculative knowledge about Brahman, austerities, having amazing breakdancing knowledge. And the correct answer is the first option. True or false? When we take shelter of the Lord to perform bhakti, when you pass, your progress is lost. And the correct answer is false. In third, we have Lokeshwar. In second, we have Jarul. In first, we have Arav.
Fantastic. Well done, Arav. Amazing. Amazing. And well done, Ishwari Kishori as well. Very, very good. Thank you for everybody participating, and hope it was informative and useful. And look forward to seeing everybody next week for... Oh, Arav, yes? What did you want to say?
I have a question. What does renouncing fruits mean?
Renouncing means giving, not being attached. And fruits are basically, when you go to work, we get a salary. And that is regarded to be a fruit of our labor. So if we are not attached to that salary or to the fruits of our labor, i.e., we're not saying, this is mine, I will spend it on all the wonderful things I want, but instead we have a mood of, the Lord has given me this fruit and I will use it to help others, to obviously look after the family, to help to donate to various causes like that. So you're not attached to the fruits of our labor. So that's what renouncing the fruits means. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Good question.
For kids could be like
And for children, my wife's just saying, if you get good marks, you realize that actually
you put in hard work.
you put in hard work, but it's the mercy of the Lord as well that you are
So
getting that. So you don't become too proud of yourself.
you're renouncing that.
Yeah. So you're renouncing basically the, the fruit by saying, actually, this is the Lord's mercy. Yes, you worked hard, but also the Lord helped you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that question. Wonderful question. Thank you, everybody. Next week, hopefully, we'll do chapter 8. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shwari Kishori. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank
Hare
Bye-bye.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
you.